Without further ado, I'd like to invite Ambassador Lamin Sager to present opening remarks.
Thank you, Hannah. Excellencies, colleagues, welcome. And on behalf of our co-hosts, the World Bank, Irena, and all the chairs and members of the global councils on the SDGs, I'd really like to thank you for joining us here today. We're really excited in the UAE to share our approach to partnerships for the SDGs with you and to hear your views on how to maximize the impact of those partnerships and scale them up. When we adopted the SDGs in 2015, we collectively agreed that partnership, as part of goal number 17, would be reviewed every year at the HLPF because of its centrality to achieving the SDGs. 3 years later, while some real progress has been made, it's clear that we need to pick up the pace if we want to achieve Agenda 2030 by 2030. And the data is really showing that to be true. So if we look at the statistics gathered by UNCTAD of the estimated $5 to $7 trillion needed each year to advance progress on the SDGs, the funding gap is still thought to be at around $2.5 trillion. So considering that official development assistance only amounted to $142 billion in 2016, it's clear that to deliver on the 2030 agenda, we will need to build partnerships beyond the public sector. So in the UAE's experience, which is primarily where I'll focus my remarks today, we found that in order to build partnerships with the private sector and all other stakeholders, we can't simply take a business as usual approach. The need to reach out beyond the existing challenges and channels to build these partnerships was really the impetus behind the creation of the Global Councils on the Sustainable Development Goals. So to give you a little bit of background on those councils, the Global Councils were launched earlier this year at the UAE's World Government Summit. The World Government Summit, which focuses on the future of government as driven by technological advances and evolving citizen expectations, brings together over 4,000 leaders from the public, private, and civil sectors from around the world. And it includes special sessions dedicated to artificial intelligence, youth empowerment, happiness, and well-being, among other cross-cutting topics. Sorry, I think everyone can hear me. Over the past 3 years, we have partnered with the World Bank, OECD, Irena, the UN, and others on a special segment of the summit dedicated to action for the SDGs. And this year's segment also provided the launchpad for the Global Councils. So the Global Councils are really a unique interdisciplinary network of decision makers. Government, international organizations, academia, civil society, and the private sector who are focused on catalyzing innovation around the SDGs. And to give you some idea about their focus areas, these are to develop innovative solutions for the SDGs, to mobilize the support needed for scale solutions to achieve these targets, to forge new and impactful partnerships between the public, private, and civil sectors, and to integrate findings in global fora, including the HLPF, which brings us to today's session. So our broader hope is that the work of these councils will spur action to get the world collectively on track to achieving Agenda 2030. As part of the first phase of this undertaking, 9 of the global councils were launched at the summit in February. Each council is chaired by prominent leaders, 3 of whom we look forward to hearing from today. I would like to thank Mahmoud Mahieldin from the World Bank, who's chair of Council 1 on Poverty, Adnan Amin from Irena, chair of Council 7 on Energy, and Masamichi Kono from the OECD on behalf of Mari Kinyemi, the chair of Council 17 on Partnerships. I'd like to thank them for sharing their insights with all of you here today. We will also hear from Norway and Slovenia on their views of the World Government Summit, as well as various members of the councils on their work plans and areas of focus. We're really very much looking forward to benefiting from a working session with all the participants here today, hearing from all of you about your experiences and your own national experiences, as well as your experiences through the intergovernmental process, and how to maximize our collective impact. And we're certainly open to welcoming new members to the councils and partners in launching the next 8 councils as part of the second phase of this project. So achieving the 2030 agenda will clearly require a lot of hard work from all of us in the years ahead. And it's my sincere hope that today's event will help in that effort as we guide the path forward for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'd now like to invite Director Juan Zhu from the Division of Sustainable Development of the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, Bureau in New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. I bring greetings from Undersecretary Mr. Yu. When I told him that I'm coming to speak here, I could sense a little bit of jealousy of the who I am now. First of all, I would like to thank the UAE government and the co-organizers for convening this event. And we have about 190 side events, and this is one of the few that really taking a strategic look at the SDGs. So kudos to the co-organizers. In the lead up to the Ethiopia, we undertook some intensive preparations. The picture, as Ambassador just highlighted, is somewhat mixed. We see encouraging headway in reducing poverty, in improving public health, enrolling children in schools, and in offering better access to safe drinking water and access to modern energy services, which I'm sure Edna will elaborate a bit later on. And we have also improved forest coverage through afforestation and reforestation, and always thank you for having contributed so much in that regard. But we also see deteriorating trends in other areas. We see a rise in hunger. We see continuing challenges in maternal mortality rates. It just remains stubbornly high in parts of the developing world. It's a challenge, a policy challenge that we should all do to meet. We also see worsening trends in consumption and in waste. Every hour we see a truckload of plastics being dumped into the ocean. The SG's Special Envoy on Ocean, Peter Thompson, is traveling around the world to ensure that we do our very best to save the ocean. And recently he told me that he will be interested in being part of the Council on SDG 14. And of course, on climate action, combined, we all see that the nationally determined contributions fails to match the 1.5-degree target. So most of my colleagues say that we should go around and sound the alarm, that we are not really on track. But I do not fully share that assessment. I'm a little bit more optimistic. Why? If you look at some 120 voluntary national reports, and 47 of them are taking place this week, and if you examine the UN system actions, including partner organizations such as Irena, and if you attend the business forum that is happening today, and the local government forum that was organized yesterday, you see inspiring examples of action, of breakthroughs and success stories. Even this gaps analysis, the multiple gaps analysis, we see that it reveals important lessons that can be utilized in changing courses ahead. So personally, here are a few takeaways that I want to share very briefly with colleagues here, based on the voluntary national review, the UN system action, and the Southern Partnership that is available on our database. Number one, there is commitment from the top, and that's very different from the MDG area. And you see heads of state government leading the action, and you can verify this through the VNRs. Number two, there are better coordination and coherence. And I think a lot of this is taking place at the ministerial levels, and Norway, even the UAE VNR provide evidence for that. And number three, there are also ownerships and buy-in from parliaments. And this is another new innovative breakthrough. And some of the members of parliament are here this time at the Ethiopia. Number four, there's also more emphasis on evidence-based analysis, including by Supreme Audit institutions. We have about 120 Supreme Audit institutions that are analyzing performance by governments. And number five, there is really a bottom-up initiatives, including by business and civil society organizations. It's a point that I don't want to elaborate on, since colleagues are all aware of it. And number six, there is some, though not full and adequate, shift away from silos and more emphasis towards holistic thinking, putting more emphasis on synergies and on linkages, which is really at the core of the SDGs. And finally, leaving no one behind is really becoming the yardstick to measure real progress. So all of this is the reason why I'm optimistic. And before I conclude, I want to make one strong recommendation. I encourage everyone here, if you haven't done so, to go through the Vienna report of the United Arab Emirates. It is a report really on excellency in action. It showcases a country looking towards the future, thinking about the future, and acting for the future. It demonstrates, the UAE's report demonstrates that a small country with a big heart, generous in sharing the resources, and strong in commitment to global partnerships. Very few people are actually aware that UAE is one of the few countries that are devoting more than 1% of their GDP to development cooperation. And today, UAE's example is captured in one word, in our opinion, that is leadership. We need leadership. Leadership by individuals, many of them are around the table, and they are actually committed to leading the SDGs action. And we need leadership by business and by governments. And the SDGs Council that UAE has launched this year is really answering the call for leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julian, for those inspiring words, positive words. As happiness representative, I'm always happy to see the positive side and how we can move forward together and your kind works towards the UAE. We'll certainly tell the report writers that their hard work was not in vain. So thank you for that. I'd now like to call on Dr. Inge Herman-Reidland, who's the Special Envoy on Agenda 2030 from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Norway. Thank you, Joanne, for providing the linkage between the UAE and Norway. Two small countries, may I say, with large hearts, definitely in their regions. We'd very much like to hear your views as one of the partner countries from the Government Summit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for inviting Norway to come to this important event. From the side of Norway, we see the 2030 agenda as a kind of transformative roadmap, and it is absolutely defining what's going on in the world today. And that we also have seen here at HLPF. Norway follows the 2030 agenda nationally and internationally, and is in cooperation with member states. Many of these efforts are being showcased at the high-level forum we are attending now. The government has taken important steps to identify challenges and to integrate the SDGs into the annual budget. Let me reiterate that. There is no single budget line in the Norwegian national budget for the 2030 agenda. It's part of the task to recast our activities, to tune them to the agenda. And that's a different approach than others may take, but this is what we are comfortable with. So the budget is to be tuned to the SDGs. Importantly, and this is a lesson that we now learn to appreciate more and more, this contributes to a greater policy coherence and public acceptance of the whole agenda. In sum, we can say that the SDGs is not considered to be an add-on. It is the thing. And that's a fundamental issue for us. It's not an add-on. The Prime Minister, Mrs. Solberg, is co-chairing, as you know, the advocacy group together with Akufo-Addo, the President of Ghana. Her latest initiative now is the Ocean Panel that is established now, building a sustainable ocean economy. While this initiative has a main focus on SDG 14, it also exemplifies a very important part of what Norway thinks about the 2030 agenda, Madam Chair. Basically, that it is the blend of goals that creates a new future. The silos should be gone. So we have found that the topic of the ocean has a huge bearing on the achievement of many other SDGs. Nobody believes that partnership will be critical in achieving necessary synergies, as you said already, Madam Chair. Partnership is also critical for financing the SDGs. In particular, enhancing collaboration between the public and the private sector is crucial in unleashing the private sector's vast potential as an engine for transformation and inclusive and shared growth. While the importance of partnerships is especially recognized in the SDG 17, increased effort in building partnerships are needed. Clearly, the councils, the subject of this side event, can have a great potential, has a great potential to facilitate new partnerships between countries and organizations in the implementation of innovative solutions to achieve SDGs. That is our position on the council, plain and square. One important takeaway from this HLPF is that the honeymoon for the 2030 agenda is over. Now it's down to hard work to make goals happen. We therefore welcome the initiative and look forward to what it can contribute in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'd now like to call on Mr. Tim Soos, who leads the National Development Strategy of Slovenia. Slovenia is, of course, very well known for their long-term strategic planning approach, as well as their consultative approach to their plan on the SDGs. They're very well known to us as co-members on the Global Happiness Coalition. So we very much look forward to hearing their views on the Government Summit and how to take the councils further. I'll just pass the mic.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us to be able to be part of this event. Slovenia indeed wanted to take a very comprehensive approach and trying to see how we don't just respond with a certain report at a certain time on the SDGs, but how can we integrate them into everything we do. So we did our webinar last year in preparing our national development strategy. And I will not be speaking about that, but I just wanted to say one thing. When we did our analysis and prepared the report, we saw that on many areas we are doing quite well. We are having really great results. This is what our analysis shows at home. Also, the results like SDG Index, we are 8th in the world. However, then we wanted to see, so if we are good in many areas, what is where we are not the best, and what is the reason? And if we really put all the details on the side, then one main lesson is we are performing the worst where the most cooperation is needed, where things are the most horizontal, where topics are the most connected and they are not just on one level, where one actor, one ministry or one sector cannot act alone. So this was the biggest lesson for what to do next after our VNR, and this is how we designed also our national development strategy. But then also the whole work of connecting internationally, sharing these experiences, also working together is something that we needed, that needs to happen. So we very much welcomed the establishment of the Global Councils. We are happy to be part of it in different ways. I personally am a member of the SDG 17 Council, which brings partnerships together. And for partnerships, I think we need trust, but to build trust, we need shared experiences. And how else can we create the opportunities for shared experiences than with councils like these? This is why we believe in the Syrian government, we believe this is a great initiative that will provide those much needed shared experience, opportunities for shared experiences, so that we can then act together in various social access internationally, also with the private sector, also with the local communities, to be able to deliver on the SDGs. I just maybe want to refer to one point on the Supreme Audit Institutions. I agree with what was said. They play a very important role because they are national institutions, but they also are very independent. So what they have agreed just in 2016 in the meeting I believe they had exactly in the United Arab Emirates, the strategic plan of Inter-Size said very great path for the size, and that's why we also believe that work together with them is important. We have taken a lot of steps to do so. So this is just a bit of what I want to share in the beginning, and I believe we'll have great discussion. It's just the beginning of a bunch of discussions we'll have in the next years around these councils. Thank you.
I'm going to hand over to the next part of our event and to introduce our moderator, Mr. AL-HAJ. He is the UN and New York Bureau Chief of Al Arabiya News Channel, and he'll be taking over and introducing our panelists.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the Global Councils for Sustainable Development Goals were launched 5 months ago in Dubai on the 11th of February in the run-up to the World Government Summit. They were perceived as an innovative global platform that is conducive to exchanging views and experiences and identifying best practices that can be translated into practical, realistic applications on local levels. They were the UAE global efforts to achieve the SDGs. After all, one smart person told me once that to think globally, but to implement locally. My name is AL-HAJ, and I am a journalist here with Al Arabiya based at the United Nations, and I have the distinct honor today to be your moderator. Once I asked a dear friend of mine, the secret of her or his success, and she told me, I always surround myself by people smarter than me. And today I have the good fortune of indeed surrounding myself with a lot of smart people, and in particular my panel guests. I would like to introduce first, he doesn't need any introduction, Dr. Mahmoud Mohiuddin. He is a senior vice president of the World Bank, and we're also honored and delighted to have with us Adnan Amin, the Director General of ENRA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency. Irena.
But that's a good idea.
Irena. I would like to give each of you, sir, a 5 minutes or so period to give us a summation of the council that you lead, because you represent Council Number 1, Global Council Number 1, which is entrusted with giving advice and to governments and partners on eradicating poverty all over the world. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Very honored for the invitation to participate in this panel. Very happy, as always, to respond to one of the good invitation by Her Excellency, the Ambassador, Darren Oseda, and to be with my good colleague, brother, and friend, Adnan. The SDG 1 Council, as I said during the inauguration of its activities in Dubai in February, that is going to be the net beneficiary of all of the efforts that are going to be conducted in the rest of the SDGs. So Adnan is doing well in his domain, at the SDGs of education, on health, on infrastructure. The rest of and definitely the partnerships are doing right. We'll be benefiting from that. But this does not mean that there aren't really needs for specific efforts to target matters related to ending extreme poverty. And fortunately, this is the job of the institution that I'm working for. We have twin goals. The first one of them is eradicating poverty, eliminating poverty by 2030. And the second is enhancing shared prosperity, which goes beyond SDG 10. Having said that, being encouraged to be with this group of leaders of of different councils, and with a sense of competition, we started fast, and I'm happy that our call for membership was answered positively by 20 members from around the world, leaders in their lines of business, and whatever you said about being surrounded by smart people, and I feel very much humbled to be coordinating the work of this council, and especially with the acceptance of people like Professor Mike Spence, the very well-known Nobel Prize laureate. To his knowledge, we know a lot about principles of impact of growth, and to Francois Bourguignon, the chair of the Paris School of Economics, and is behind really everything almost we know about poverty and income distribution, and the list goes on. So I cannot really go through the 20 names that I distributed through my colleagues, the pamphlet that have the names and affiliations. It's not just about meetings. So what we agreed at the very beginning, It is not just a meeting in February in Dubai and then to have another one and to report on other meetings, but basically what could be the specific deliverables that this council of eminent people in their own domain, being in government or think tanks or in the private sector, supporting development in different ways, how we contribute differently to the elimination of poverty. There is a great deal of success that was associated with the MDGs, as we all know. We managed to halve the number, as global community, halve the number of those who are under the line of extreme poverty, but so far we have 767 million of them, more than 10%. So I agreed on three things. First, that we'll be producing global knowledge products that are going to be shared frequently. The second, that we'll be having a focused country approach, and your very able ambassador, the Minister of International Cooperation, challenged us to do something unique, different, and demanding. So in the list of the countries, we put Somalia as one of the cases that we need to help and support. So we didn't really go to the easy cases that we can deal with, but we get into some challenging case. And finally, well, we want to engage many people from academia, from the private sector, and definitely from the young. And the best way to do that is through a competition to tackle poverty. And we agreed on that during discussions at the margins of the spring meetings. We're going to be having our next meeting at the margins of the General Assembly. Our member from Indonesia is hosting us at Bali at the margins of the annual meetings. And by then, there will be some specific deliverables, updates. Happy to share them at the gatherings at the government summit in Dubai. This is a very much welcome initiative by the UAE. I tend to agree and disagree a lot with my good friend Jeff Sachs, but on one of the things that I agree with him of what he said yesterday about the Emirates, when their ability is going beyond their borders and enlighten us with many good ideas and initiatives. And for that, I think we are very happy, not as individuals, but with our organizations behind us to support this important initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Al-HAJ. I'd like to give the floor, before that, I would like to mention that we have another guest in the panel. He's in his way now, he's held. It's Mr. Masamichi Kono, who is the Deputy Secretary General for the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, standing for Mari Kaviyimi, who couldn't make it to this, to speak on Global Council 17. I'd like to give the floor now to Dr. Amin, the Director General of Irena. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And, you know, I've heard it said that the smartest person in the room is the one who makes everybody else feel smart. So we can see through your strategy here. But it's really a great pleasure to be here, especially under the auspices of Ambassador Nusaybe, good friend from Abu Dhabi. We still miss you, but we know you're doing very well here, so we cannot ask you to come back too soon. But also to see Mahmoud, and I think Mahmoud is absolutely right, because I think one of the fundamental issues we have to address is poverty, and the outcomes in the other SDG components will directly affect that outcome, and we're pleased to help as long as you invite us to the Bali meeting also. But let me say, energy is one of those areas. We have the review at the HLPF of SDG 7. I think it's very important juncture, because it's the first time in a universal intergovernmental forum in the UN that energy has achieved that level. Never before have we had that, a global goal on energy. And I think that has brought together a lot of people in a very positive, optimistic agenda on the transition to a sustainable energy future. And we had a very intensive, more than 3 hours of discussion, a lot of speakers, a lot of perspectives. But what is very clear is that there is a transition underway. It is disruptive to some extent. It is more rapid than anybody had expected. And it opens a pathway to also achieving the objective of decarbonization under the Paris Agreement. So bringing Paris and the SDGs together, which is one of the critical aspects of SDG 7. So I think it looks good, but it's also very clear that the progress, while it is being made, is not yet sufficiently fast to achieve the targets. So over the next few years, we have to create an international framework of support to achieve those targets. And I think, as Ambassador from Norway said, the honeymoon is over. It's now about the implementation. It's not a sectoral agenda. It's a global integrated agenda, and it behoves us all within all of the groups to ensure that we create a synergy amongst us that can actually help to move the needle much faster than it would have otherwise moved. But everything is about context, and the SDG review in New York once a year is not going to achieve everything. All actors have to be involved, and I think the creation of the global councils in Dubai at the World Government Summit is extremely important. Everything is about context. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the World Government Summit, but it brings together every year some of the leading thinkers, some of the leading technology companies, some of the leading advocates of good governance in the world, new business models, new technological models, including in the field of energy, that are looking at the future in a very innovative and interesting way. Mahmoud, you know it well. And I think infusing that spirit a little bit into our global councils is a very important objective of how these councils should run. They should not be the normal run-of-the-mill, we complain about the problems, we look at the numbers, and then we say somebody should do something about it. These are going to be people who are committed to action, people who can create a catalytic effect, people who can disseminate knowledge, and people who can bring constituencies with them. So we are designing the Global Council on Energy really to take advantage of those different types of aspects that can come to the table in a combined way. I think on the access picture, we have done quite well. The emerging mission statement focuses largely on access. I think that is a critical part of the picture. But I think there are other parts of the picture, because one of the missed opportunities at the moment is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is critically important because the business case today for energy efficiency exists, but there is no enabling policy framework that's taking it forward, and I think that the Global Council on Energy can help to create that momentum around efficiency. But even more important, I believe, is emerging technology, artificial intelligence, blockchain, learning algorithms in energy infrastructure, new types of business models that are going to drive the energy transition. And I think that's where we could have a third leg of the SDG, of the Global Council, that could help to create a very interesting trifecta of issues that we could have around the energy component. So we're moving forward on that. And let me say, in conclusion, I've been in the UAE 7 years, and I've come to understand that sometimes the counterintuitive is what creates change. So it was absolutely counterintuitive. Lana was part of this campaign, but it was absolutely counterintuitive that the world's renewable energy agency should be based in a country that has created its great affluence from conventional energy. But they took that decision. And through the government summit and all the other fora, the World Future Energy Summit and so on in the UAE, we are seeing that they are pioneering the approach to a post-carbon world based on the best technological capabilities available, best knowledge in terms of governance frameworks, to look at the future. And that is really something that is giving the Global Council's momentum. And I think I would also like to pay tribute to the office of His Highness the Prime Minister of the UAE, Mohammed bin Rashid. Radia is here, which has given such great support to the council process. I think all the ingredients for this to be a successful element, combining practitioners from different fields who bring constituencies of action with them, can create real momentum, and we're looking forward to moving this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a general question concerning the global councils that you represent, which you represent 7 and you represent 1. What contribution can this global council make to the global dialogue on SDGs, and how do you choose your members of the being the chair? Just a quick idea to our listeners.
I think Mahmoud has already got all these luminaries. Well, we are still going through a process of looking at this. There's huge interest. There's a very large number of actors, and we want to make sure that we have a very distributed network of people who have 2 or 3 attributes. One attribute is cutting-edge knowledge on transition that they will bring to the table. 2 is to be parts of global coalitions that can actually help to catalyze action and bring constituencies with them. And 3, have an open attitude to the future in terms of designing new systems of looking at the future and moving the rest of the international community in that direction, and making a contribution to the central process in the United Nations. So that's the thinking behind it. As I said, we're thinking about 15, almost 20 members. We have about 150 applicants for these positions, but we have about 7 core members already, and we're moving towards completion of the rest by the time the next government summit happens.
Dr. Mahmoud?
Right. For us in this council, we have already formed a good number of participants. I mentioned already some of the names. We have 22 members. All were selected based on the terms of reference that were shared with us with the Prime Minister's office, that people are being chosen, as I mentioned, about what their ability to contribute, not their history of contributing. If they have good history as well, that would be fantastically appreciated. But basically, this is not a council to recognize good work of the past, but basically how they can offer solutions for the future. We have huge challenges, and we need people who are dynamic enough, can allocate some of their time as well, because some of those people are basically very much under heavy demand. So I'm happy with the selection of the people we have today, and especially that they are not, the majority of them, representing just their individual capacity, but many of them are coming with strong institutional and organizational support, and through them will be talking to others behind them. So it cascades in different ways. And I already shared what could be the deliverables from now until February, and they are very demanding. We just hope that we can get that right by the time that we do. In addition to that, the contribution to the dialogue, I'm happy that as part of the updates of the World Bank Group contribution to the implementation of the SDGs, as you can see in my title, there is something called partnerships. So we celebrated this partnership with the United Arab Emirates and the government summit in this pamphlet. So we use it as well in our own internal discussions and beyond.
Thank you so much. I'd like to inform everybody that we are joined now by Mr. Masamichi Kuno. Welcome, sir. He's a Deputy Secretary General of the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. He is standing for Mrs. Mari Kavanimi, and she is the chair of the Global Council SDG 17. I'd like to give you the floor to say a few words, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I must apologize for 2 things, but first of all, a great thank you to you, Mr. Ambassador. And of course, I apologize for being late in coming, but I also have to apologize because initially it was supposed to be another Deputy Secretary General, Mari Kavanimi, who was nominated to be chair of SDG 17 Council for the 2018 and 2020 term. Now she has to excuse herself for not being able to make it here, and so I'm sitting in on her behalf. So ambassadors, ministers, colleagues and friends, of course we all know that the SDG 17 Council aims to identify strategies for operationalizing the partnerships for SDG implementation. In short, this goal works to ensure that all other SDGs are coherently implemented, propelled by the necessary partnerships. For this reason, this is one of the most complex of all the SDGs. And It addresses systemic issues that create links between the SDGs by looking at the interactions of targets, helping set priorities, plan strategies, building cross-sectoral partnerships, and finding the means of implementation. This may not be the most talked about in the context of our implementation of SDGs, but certainly it is quite horizontal, overarching, and quite complex. And so we did have a first meeting of the Sustainable Development Goals 17 Council on the 2nd of July. We discussed the importance of focusing the work of the Council on those areas that are not already covered very well in the global architecture. This particularly includes systemic issues such as capacity building, policy coherence, institutional support, and partnerships. And we, of course, were very honored to have the membership of the Council that reflected the variety of the relevant actors, which are really needed to join forces to deliver upon SDG 17. And this includes highly experienced representatives from organizations involved in global partnerships, such as the UN-SDSN or the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, the United Nations Development Program, and the United Nations Environment Program. There were also national representatives from Slovenia and Finland, and we have a strong institutional partner in the African Peer Review Mechanism. In this meeting, participants stressed the importance of getting to grips with the governance challenges of SDG implementation. Getting the right institutional mechanisms in place is essential for SDG delivery. That was recognized. There are a number of steps: long-term planning, choosing coordination instruments, devising stakeholder engagement mechanisms, implementing planning strategies into the budget, applying regulatory tools, ensuring policy coherence, and keeping track of data and financing, among others. So this is a very long list, and again, this shows the complexity of the agenda that we have. But what we can tell from our experience at the OECD and in this context as well, we need a whole of government response, because those issues cannot be tackled piece by piece or in silos. And so we have to avoid having silos in ministries or relevant offices. And multi-level governance coordination will also be necessary, as implementation of the regional and local levels is essential for effective implementation. So not just national, but regional, local. And we should leave no one behind in the community. And again, in this meeting, we discussed how experiences vary across regions and institutions, and how each country is tailoring governance mechanisms to their specific circumstances. That is, there's no one-size-fits-all. But we also discussed how we should improve our understanding of such practices, and we certainly have an evidence gap to address, and bridging this evidence gap is something that international organizations are well placed to help with when they work together. So the OECD is thus in ongoing conversations with the UN, SDSN, UNDP and others I mentioned, over the establishment of a knowledge facility that would allow peer learning, helping countries to access information of what has and has not worked in the SDG governance space. So we will have this knowledge facility or platform. At the OECD, we have extensive experience with successful peer learning platforms, such as the Tax Inspectors Without Borders initiative that we have built with UNDP. Thank you very much. The idea would be to extend this model to the governance challenge of SDG implementation. So, excuse me for being a bit long, but let me conclude by saying that the SDG 17 Council aims to clarify and identify the most strategic of all the SDGs for strengthening the means of implementation, and its participants are starting to bring rich ideas and proposals to the table. We very much look forward to working with you all. And between now and the next World Government Summit, we aim to have a clearer roadmap on how partnerships can help bring about more effective SDG implementation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. May I have just the microphone, please? I'm afraid time has caught up with us for the panel, so if we are to have some interactive dialogue with the audience, I'd like to move now to some of our speakers, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for interactive dialogue, questions and answers. I'd like to invite Mrs. Mira Sheikh, the project manager for Smart Dubai, on behalf of Dr. Aisha bin Bashir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Talal, Ambassador Nseba, Excellencies, distinguished guests. On behalf of Her Excellency Dr. Aisha bin Bashir, Director General of Smart Dubai and Chair of the Global Council of SDG 11, I would like to thank you for hosting this side event to introduce the Global Councils on SDGs.
Next.
Goal 11, which is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, is unique in the sense that it's immensely cross-cutting across all dimensions. More than half the world's population now lives in urban areas. These urban areas consume 75% of natural resources, produce 60 to 80% of greenhouse gas emissions, and generate 50% of all waste. So basically, our social, economic, and environmental challenges are mostly manifested in urban areas, and hence SDG 11 plays an extremely important role. Our SDG 11 Global Council has been established with the mission to catalyze and accelerate the achievement of SDG 11 by 2030. Our council has already had its introductory meeting, with the next meeting being held next week. It consists of 11 members from across the board, ranging from government to private sectors, NGOs, and academia. I would like to acknowledge the 3 members from our council who are with us in the room today: Professor Patricia McCartney, President and CEO of the World Council on City Data, the WCCD, Ms. Carrie Ake, the Secretary General of the Organization of International Economic Relations, the OIER, and Mr. Kimo Gori, the VP of Reporting Services for the IISD. As part of our council work, we aim to create a generic yet customizable framework for cities with different levels of development to allow them to assess their current position and gaps with respect to the SDG 11 targets and implement action items and share best practices. Our approach towards the implementation is a phased approach, consisting of developing the framework, establishing partnerships, and identifying tangible implementation options. Science, technology, and innovation will be a strong enabler for our framework. We aim to leverage on fourth industrial revolution technologies such as blockchain, AI, IoT, and data science, if and where applicable, in order to come up with a tangible framework where other city managers can adopt and implement easily. We are well aware of the many worldwide efforts towards implementing SDGs. Therefore, we are not looking to reinvent the wheel. We aim to capitalize on these efforts that have been done towards the SDG 11 to take it to the next level. We look forward to showcasing our successful implementations in different cities around the world towards the end of the council cycle by February 2020. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to give the floor now to Mr. Eric Dawson. He's the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Peace First, and he's a member also of GC16. Please, floor is yours.
I appreciate the doctorate. My mother would be very happy.
I took it back immediately.
Darn. How are folks doing? It's doing a panel discussion right after lunch in a room with no windows is a challenge. So I just want to appreciate everyone for hanging in there. I'm here representing our chairperson, the Honorable Helen Clark, and the SDG 16 group. Peace, security, the rule of law is essential for a healthy and functioning planet, state and local government, and the health and welfare of all of us. And our group is tackling this with aplomb. And I should say, all the SDG councils are amazing. Ours is like special amazing. We have an incredible group of leaders from around the globe who are committed to bringing together different sectors. We live and work in these silos. And our group is committed to bringing these silos together to see what magic can be created. We've been exploring a number of critical issues. the role of technology and fostering transparency, ways to support the citizen sector, so how citizens can be engaged in their societies, and how we create inclusive, welcoming communities, particularly in this time of global warming, climate change, and increased migration. We have landed on an initial project that I think is going to be game-changing, based on 3 observations that we made collectively. The first is that citizen engagement is essential to this work. Nowhere is that more important than engaging young people. There are 1.6 billion young people on our planet, and nobody is calling them, certainly not at scale, to be engaged in solving the critical problems of the day. We are going to change that. We're going to leverage the power of young people to imagine and create and discover opportunities to create more peaceful, more inclusive societies on the local, regional, national, and global level. And we're going to do that by creating a global youth challenge. A global youth challenge for peaceful and inclusive societies. And so we built a digital platform that invites young people anywhere on the planet to identify a problem they want to solve, provides digital design tools for them to solve them, and connects them with a mentor and small startup funding to get their project launched off the ground. Already in our initial pilot, we have almost 100 projects that young people have tackled. Mohammed is 22 years old, lives in Egypt, and he's created an organization called Agents for the SDGs. He's training youth workers around Egypt to train other young people about what the SDGs mean and how they get implemented. There's a group in Uganda that sits between 2 rival factions that are fighting over a piece of land. These young people have decided to plant a fruit garden, fruit trees, that both sides can use. There's a young person here in the United States who's working on the issue of sex trafficking by interviewing girls and women who've been a victim of trafficking to tell their own stories in their own voice to help protect other girls and women from this atrocity. There's a group in Colombia that's working to reclaim their war-torn area by organizing, get this, bicycle tours of their community. They're getting tourists who are now coming back to Bogota and Cali and Medellin to come to their rural community, to see their community through their eyes on bicycles. We right now are looking for partners to grow this. We're looking for partners who are interested in engaging young people in their countries, who are providing mentorship and guidance and support. And our vision is at the next World Government Summit, they're up on the stage with the incredible dignitaries that the WGS brings, having youth voices, not just in the plenaries, but up there on stage, sharing their ideas with 4,000 global stakeholders on how they're going to create more peaceful, more inclusive societies. And we hope that you'll join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have, Hannah, time for Q&As? We do. I'd like to open the floor to everybody whoever has a question to our distinguished guests. You're very welcome. Sir. Yes, just project. You'll be
Thank
fine.
you very much for hosting this event and for the initiative approach of the United Arab Emirates. My name is Rami Ahmed. I'm a special envoy on the SDGs and senior advisor to the president of the Islamic Development Bank, and a member of the Council on SDG 8. We're not as lucky as the esteemed colleagues who just spoke about their activities, but also we're very excited about SDG 8. We have 3 initiatives that will take hopefully place sometime soon. But I'm very excited about one in particular which has to do with the youth employability. And I was also inspired by what you mentioned about the youth, and this brings the question to the panelists actually. Do you see the interlinkages between the different councils? Is there a mechanism really to get the councils not to duplicate what the others are doing and to see what are the synergies somehow to make the work of the councils more productive? Number 2, also I'm interested in your thoughts on what's the real measure of success of these councils. how do we know that we are really successful? Shouldn't we really be aware of what the others are doing? Should we, we have eminent people in all these councils. They should not bring their success in their regular work to the council. Shouldn't we be doing something really distinguished over and above and beyond what we are doing in our organizations? So these are the two questions that I'm interested in the thoughts of the panelists. Thank you very much.
Any takers? Dr. Mahmoud?
I am yeah, the questions of Dr. Rami are always interesting and challenging. One of them is being solved by the PM office through the coordination mechanism they have. So they are the hub through which these SDGs, the 17 of them and their councils, are basically feeding the information and the update. There are some councils that may not really be as victims of any kind of overlap than others. Our council shouldn't be concerned with that, given the nature of ending poverty as an outcome of all outcomes. But your council in particular would benefit a lot from works related to education, matters related to infrastructure, issues related to opportunities, and the partnerships. So actually the issues related to reliance on that hub of coordination is essential. And then matters related to the informality, that the whole thing is being set up with the spirit of cooperation and coordination need really to be there. There is nothing really that should prevent a member of a council through the mechanism to reach out to others. So it's an interactive in that way, and we're in the very early stages, so we can't really share the information. About setting too much of ambitious targets beyond what our organizations can do, with all due respect to the kind of efforts that we're going to be doing in these councils, I think I can speak on behalf of my institution. There are some areas, for instance, that we cannot do through this council. Funding, direct technical assistance. These kind of things are not going to be happening in that, with that, but equally important matters related to knowledge sharing, experience, showing by example. All of these matters are as important as funding and technical assistance as it gets when you are implementing the SDGs.
Thank you. Anybody would like to? Please.
Thank you. Just to add that our council, of course, deals with this issue of mobilizing resources and also of coordinating. And so in that respect, actually, one thing that we are feeling that we should first, of course, do is to do a lot of fact-finding and also looking at really what each institution, what each group is doing. And so, in fact, for all the SDGs, if there is a need to perhaps look for a database or for some kind of information guide to who is doing what, we already have a certain basis at our organization, and we can certainly do more. So please feel free to contact us for that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have maybe some more time for one or two questions. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much for hosting this event, to the UAE Mission and to the World Bank. I think the global councils are critical to mobilize existing resources, existing initiatives, as well as coordinating those initiatives. Is there a platform to create more transparency or somehow have ways to identify the kind of KPIs that are being met or tackled, so the Content Global Initiative had these public commitments and was able to sort of identify in a more public way what are the specific clusters of initiatives or the specific commitments that are being moved forward. Because so a lot of the work that I've been leading with different sectors of the UN, multilateral agencies, deal specifically with inclusive and resilient cities. So when we're looking at cities, we're looking at infrastructure, both physical infrastructure as well as digital infrastructure. And we've partnered a lot with the UAE and the leadership of Ambassador Khalid Rusaybi to ensure that those efforts are also inclusive of people that are too often left behind, specifically older persons and persons with disabilities. So if there are other partners that would like to contribute to the work of the councils with technical assistance or perspectives that could help strengthen your outcomes and bring communities that are oftentimes left behind, is there a mechanism to do that if we're not officially sitting as representatives of the council? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody would like to take up this question?
Thank you very much for your comment. I think this is really what we are aiming to, is we don't leave anybody behind. So the council, we're telling them when they establish their councils, they have to involve all the different sectors of the community. So from a government to a private sector to an NGO to a community themselves. So everybody is welcome to be on this council. We're not saying only certain VIPs should be on the council. So it is open. And also we are asking the council to involve different stakeholders in the community and to involve people, even if they are not an actual member on the council, but they can still give a lot of feedback to the council. So it's not only restricted on the members, it still can be open to anybody to intervene and give their different ideas.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Amin, you'd like to say something?
Well, just to add to that, I agree with that, and just to add to that, I think we're not looking at these as closed shops by any stretch. And it's important to understand, as we were saying earlier, this is not an organization we're setting up. It's not a multilateral, rules-based process. This is trying to bring people together who are at the cutting edge of knowledge and capacity in critical areas of the SDGs to share experiences and create a momentum around major goals. And, membership should also reflect that. I think Mahmoud made a very important point, which I fully agree with, is the membership of the group is not a recognition of your last 30 years of service. It's a recognition of what you have to bring over the next 10 years to the change that we're seeing. So for example, if we are going to choose a member from a utility, do we choose somebody from a utility which has a market cap of $250 billion, but which is sinking because it hasn't been able to adapt its service delivery to the new reality of decentralized energy? Or do we pick an entrepreneur who's building a new momentum with artificial intelligence and smart grid, who's looking at the future of distributed generation and management of energy systems? I may be a bad person, but I would choose the second one. So I think we will take all of that into account, but you're also right from another perspective, is that whatever we decide to move forward in terms of major initiatives has to benefit from a much broader range of consultation than just the 20 or so members of the group. And I think that we have to find mechanisms, and Radia mentioned how we will go about that, but it would be well done to have perspectives coming to the table. We will seek perspectives from major groups or from specific technology providers or people who are practitioners in specific areas when we're dealing with specific issues, and try to be as inclusive as possible, but also intellectually open, and open in terms of what the societal requirements around the transition are.
Thank you so much.
In addition to the central point of entry, some of the individual councils have their own entry points, as mentioned as well by Dr. Adnan. And for us, in that pamphlet that you have, we already put a dedicated email with 2 colleagues of mine based in 2 different time zones, ready to answer any question and to communicate. We are happy as well to communicate in any of the UN languages as well, not just limited to English and Arabic, but beyond that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. A comment?
I'd just like to touch upon the aspect of SDG 11. Cities are what brings all SDGs together, correct? So cities are the cradles of human civilization. Every goal of the 17 goals in the SDGs touch upon people and individuals. So the goal is to create a city that is inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So that is to be created for the city constituents themselves. So the approach of Dr. Aisha, the chairperson of SDG 11 here, is to implement an action plan that would touch upon the lives of every individual in the city. And that goes back to the leadership of the United Arab Emirates, which has happiness as the core. So we aim to involve people from every segment, in every sector, in every, regardless of their position, and we welcome anyone with any level of contribution, whether students, whether people at high positions, youth or elderly, just to contribute and bring what they have on the table to touch upon the lives of their peers on the city. So we're more than welcome to have you on the council as well if you're interested.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Time is caught up with us. We have two more speakers. First, they're both from the Prime Minister's office. I'd like to start with Radia AL-HAJ, Director of Sustainable Development at the Office of the United Arab Emirates Prime Minister's Office.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you very much. I think I wanted to take this opportunity to answer Dr. Rami's question, because I think he asked really a very important, critical question. I thought, let me wait and I'll answer it all together. So I just want to give a background a little bit about the councils and why did we develop the SDG Global Council, because in UAE, we really believe in innovation. We really believe that we should come out of the box. We should not repeat the same initiative that we're doing. Let's bring all these different minds together and come up with more innovative idea. So that's why last year we have announced, or this year actually, 2018, we have announced the Global Council, and we just announced the first 8. So we are starting with the first 8 SDG Global Councils, and we are really asking the chairs, and sorry, we're really pushing the chairs and their members to really come up with really innovative idea out of the box. How can you really have a big impact on the SDG that you're handling? The year 2, so in 2022, they have 2 years membership. So this is the first year they're going to do one initiative that is impactful. Year 2019, when they come to show the initiative, that is the year that we're going to do the integration. So the different council will be talking about what they have done in year 2018. And 2019 is the year of how do we integrate these different initiatives into a common goal. Because you heard from everybody saying you cannot do this SDG without every other SDG. So everybody from their angle, they're seeing their SDG is more important. From us, we're seeing all the SDGs are important and they are really interlinked. But we said, let us give them the first year to talk about their initiative, very specific SDG initiative, and year 2 will be more collaboration. Also year 2, we are asking the council and chairs to think about how do you scale it up to different countries. So year 1, they're going to do it in a smaller 1 or 2 community they select. Year 2 is going to be how can I scale this in a bigger scale. So I don't want to talk so much about it because Dr. Yasser also will talk more about the World Government Summit. I just wanted to answer Dr. Zarami's question.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Last but not least, of course, we will listen to Dr. Yasser Al-Naqabi. He is Assistant Director General at the United Arab Emirates Prime Minister's Office. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Of course, being the last one to speak, it's usually the hardest bit to keep up with these great minds on this room and the discussion that we heard for the last hour and a half. It's amazing to hear all these terms, which I will, if you guys allow me, I will just repeat some of the things that it's been consistent, not just from today's discussion, but even from yesterday's discussion. I've been hearing words like partnerships, government, private sector working together, society, NGOs, stakeholders, challenges, specific issues. We should go look at the inspiring examples, amazing stories, lessons to share from each other's. Commitment, which has been said in every single speech that we hear or discussion. Commitment, commitment, and commitment. Different approaches, specialty that now we're trying to have a bottom-up approach. Leadership goes on with leadership. Support of leadership, commitment with leadership. No silo work, we're all working together. Not only in the national level, but also on the regional level. We share best practice, we use disruptive approach, and we look at technology, 4IR, advanced technology. We are accountable and we are transparent. We should be always transparent. These are the words that got us inspired and makes us work harder, because the UAE government and also the world should not think about innovation, as Dr. Radia said, as just a choice. It is a necessity. a necessity to continue surviving, a necessity to continue re-looking at things in different approach, and a necessity to solve all the challenges that are ahead of us. So the honeymoon is over and the hard work is ahead of us. So for that, I would like to thank the SDGs Global Chairs and all the participants in today's event. It's been busy schedule. I know everyone is busy with all these amazing side meetings that's happening and all these competing events. And we really, really appreciate you guys, appreciate the commitment, appreciate you being here and joining us to discuss all these things. On behalf of the UAE government, I would like also to thank our co-host today, the World Bank, and the OECD, and Irena. Our partnership in these initiatives, as well as the other places, reflects our joint efforts, and we will work together toward achievement of the Agenda 2030 and the general prosperity. The UAE, as we said and will continue to say, remain highly committed to the SDGs agenda. At the national level, we presented yesterday our VNR, and at the global level, our overseas development and humanitarian aids are aligned to the largest extent with this agenda. In the last 3 years, we hosted the SDGs in Action program at the World Government Summit, and I guess you guys, most of you knows about it, but I'm gonna just mention some of the few points about it, which is hosted in the UAE. It supported the launch of the SDGs a few months ago, the SDGs Global Council earlier this year, and the World Government Summit is a platform, as the Ambassador Lana said, it's a platform with global leaders got together from around the world to provide great opportunities to connect. I mean, I personally witness the number of bilateral meetings, the number of discussion that happens, not just on the main arena or the side meeting or the side sessions. It's even the meetings that happening from day and night. It's like, it's amazing to see the energy, to feel the amount of energy during the World Government Summit. And the 4,000 people were there, either they're leaders or policymakers or academians or the key representative from international organizations. I mean, 140 countries were represented in the last government summit, which was February 2018. An international organization which we highly appreciate. We highly appreciate our strategic partners with them, such as the UN, the World Bank, the IMF, the OECD, the UNESCO, and the World Economic Forum, and the other partners as well. And during the summit, we also have different awards. We have the Best Minister Award. We have also the Age of the Government Award. And we have the GovTech Prize, which is the reward the government for tech pioneers providing smart solution for the global challenges. And we have also the University Challenges Award, which answered the question of involvement of youth. And it's worth mentioning regarding the youth that we have the Minister of Youth, which she was appointed 2 years ago, and she was 22, which is making her the youngest minister in the world. She's been doing amazing work in the last 2 years, hosting events, representing the youth, and she's one of the wonderful examples of the UAE ministers. And we're proudly saying that we have 33% of our ministers are female, and they're great examples. And we are going to be the 50%, inshallah, very soon with ministers. And also the head of parliament, she's a lady, and she's one of the also best examples that we have in the UAE.
And ambassadors.
Oh no, the ambassador we're coming. It's the cream of the cream. So in 2019, everyone in the room, I invite you all to join us in the World Government Summit. It's going to take place from the 10th to the 12th of February in Dubai, inshallah. And we Again, we will continue, I have to say, we will continue our support to the SDGs Global Council in developing innovative and concrete approach to the implementation of the SDGs. I would like also to invite other countries and organizations to join us on this effort. And finally, let me take this opportunity to thank our UAE mission at the UN for their endless support under the leadership of the Ambassador Lana. She's an inspiration, not just to the ladies in the UAE, even for us as well, for all UAE nationals and also worldwide. And also the team from the UAE mission, everyone here and everyone that we haven't seen, what they're doing and working very hard for their help in organizing the side events and making it successful. Thank you very much all.
Thank you. I just like to thank the organizers, the group, the World Bank group, the Irena, and the United Arab Emirates government, and in particular Ambassador Lana Nasiba. Thank you so much. I feel much smarter than an hour ago. And give yourself a clap. Thank you.
And our moderator.
One more.
Are you taking one picture or 100?
Thank you very much.